Personally, I wasn't planning to see this movie in theaters. I was going to either not see it at all and completely skip it and not even do a movie review of it, or I was going to wait till it was available to rent very cheaply. To be honest, I've never seen any of the Madea movies, and I've never seen any of Tyler Perry's movies at all. But when this movie gets the big screen of our movie theater and actually stays in there for 2 weeks despite another new movie coming out and not getting the big screen, so I figured, you know what, I'll give this a try. What's the worst that could happen? And to be honest, what is the worst that could happen? Either it's going to surprise me and I'm going to like it, or it's going to be bad and bad enough to give a movie review of and give me material. Like I said, I've never seen any of Tyler Perry's movies, and I've never seen any of the Madea movies, so I didn't really know what to expect from Boo! A Madea Halloween. But I will say, with the trailers that I've seen, it still definitely wasn't what I expected. If you're expecting this movie to be more of a Halloween parody and parodies of Halloween movies just put Madea in the situation and having to fight off ghosts and goblins and zombies and clowns and all sorts of stuff, well, this is not the movie for you. In fact, the spooky stuff doesn't even happen until the last third of the movie, give or take. And even then, from the clues that the movie gives you, you obviously know they're not real ghosts, they're not real zombies, they're not real evil creatures. But I'm getting ahead of myself. What is this movie about? Well, simply put, Tyler Perry's character, well, he's 3 characters, so the normal Tyler Perry, his name's Brian, I believe. He has a rebellious teenage daughter that doesn't do anything that he tells her to do. And she wants to go off to this frat party, this Halloween party that this frat house just down the street is planning to have. Because this frat house has this Halloween party every year, and apparently it's the biggest event of the year. I don't understand why, because from what you see of the party, it looks like a very generic, lame, stereotypical, really goofy, terrible party. But anyway, she wants to go and she plans to sneak out of the house to go to it, while Brian has to go to do some work thing that never quite explains what he had to do, but he can't watch her and she won't go with him. So he calls Madea, and Madea comes with her friends to watch the teenage girl and keep her from sneaking out of the house. And essentially that is the story of Boo! A Madea Halloween, including a bunch of spooky pranks. Okay, this wasn't a huge disaster. This wasn't a huge bore fest. Instead, I did laugh a few times, both genuinely and both because of its ridiculous, crazy, outlandish things that happen in the movie. There are definitely moments where it's so bad it's hilarious, but for me, it was so few and far between because I was more annoyed with the movie and its stupidity. But there are a few moments here and there where I did laugh with it because it was a joke that I honestly thought was funny. Now, I'm not going to give away any of the jokes and which jokes I thought were funny, because they felt like precious gems in this movie. This movie was so full of moments where I just completely stared at it emotionlessly, wasn't laughing at all, and when I did laugh, I felt like, wow, this is a really rare occasion in the movie, so I don't want to give it away in case you want to see this movie. And I will say that every time Madea punches a clown in the face, it did make me laugh. Which thankfully it doesn't happen as often as you might think, because despite this movie having a lot of jokes that just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, this is one of the things where Madea punching someone only happens, I think, 3 times in the movie, which you might think, oh, that's a lot of times, but trust me, of all the jokes that are repeated in this movie, 3 is a magical number, because there are jokes in this movie that repeat within scenes at least 3 times, rather than being in the movie 3 times. Now, because I haven't seen any of the other Madea movies, I don't know if this is a running gag or not, but there felt like there was some self-awareness in this movie with Madea possibly being a man. Because we all know it's Tyler Perry dressed up as Madea, but in this movie, it tries to be a little self-aware by poking fun at Madea being a man. And I did find the church scene in this movie pretty funny because of the whole implications of why she's running to church. And to be honest, that's pretty much it. Everything else was bad in this movie, and cartoonishly bad. Despite this movie being only about an hour and 43 minutes, it felt like it was 2 hours and 43 minutes because this movie felt long. And it's not necessarily the plot or me wanting it to get to that moment where she's fighting off zombies and fighting off clowns and all that kind of crazy stuff. That takes a long time to get to as well, but it's the scenes that seem to go on forever, and it's the repetition that continually just rinse and repeat joke after joke. And there are times where this movie felt like it needed to explain everything. There is no subtlety in this movie whatsoever. And it feels like it's explained to you over and over again to the point where I get it. I know what this movie's about. I understand the message. I understand what's going on. You don't have to repeat it and dumb it down to the point where a 4-year-old could understand this movie. But because the film was dumbing it down, because the film was overly explaining itself, all the scenes really stretched out and became way longer than they were supposed to be. Or at least longer than the purpose should have been. There are scenes that do have a purpose. There are scenes where it's clear what it's meant to be in the film, but they're stretched out and elongated thinking, oh, this will be funny. Let's add some joke after joke and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it again in the scene to make it stretch out and increase the runtime. There are definitely scenes in this movie where it felt like it was way too long and just was more aggravating than funny or hilariously bad. Also, I found many of the characters just plain annoying, and not just annoying, but stereotypical and very one-dimensional. Granted, you can have one-dimensional characters be the main characters of a movie and still be entertaining, but not when they're annoying and you feel they're annoying. For me, they felt annoying most of the time. And it's not necessarily their actions or their dialogue. It's kind of the way they acted and how they repeat the same joke to the point where everyone felt like they were just there for one joke and to repeat that joke and then to repeat it and then repeat it and 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 repeat it. That's all they did. That's why I don't want to give away the jokes that were actually genuinely funny, because there were the jokes that weren't repeated throughout the entirety of the film. And it wasn't like it was repeated jokes that were slightly different as the movie goes along, where you repeat the joke but you do it in a different angle or say it in a different way or do something slightly different. No, it was just recycled joke again and again and again and again to the point of complete annoyance. But as annoyed as I was with some of the characters, the ones that really got me, the ones that really felt completely stupid and ridiculous, and so stupid that I can't even find them funny in a stupid, hilarious way, it's the frat boys. They're the most annoying characters in the entirety of the film. And because they were so cartoonishly stereotypical that you can't find them, you can't take them seriously whatsoever. And maybe they weren't meant to be, but it became annoyingly so. And there are times when you think, oh, they're going to act stereotypical frat boy, and many times they do, but other times they sort of contradict each other and decide not to do the stereotypical route, and it becomes really dumb because of it. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, wait, if they're not being stereotypical, then maybe they're a little complex, and maybe that's something a little different and should be applauded. Nope. There's this one moment where they're being stereotypical frat boys or stereotypical movie frat boys where all they do is think about one thing, and that's getting the girls. And when the two girls are in the party and they have to hide, they're like, to the bedrooms. And so you know, oh, I know what's going to go down. Well, then they find out, oh, the girls are only 17. And then a whole, alarm seems to go off. I mean, it isn't literally an alarm in the house, but as soon as this one guy learns that they're 17, this guy really irritated me. And it's because his voice is sort of a guy imitating Adam Sandler as Adam Sandler is trying to imitate Mark Wahlberg. That's what his voice sounded like. It sounded like a mixture of Adam Sandler and Mark Wahlberg, but a really bad impression of both of them mixed together, and it was ridiculously annoying. But when he finds out his girl is only 17, he's like, oh God, I gotta tell everyone. Oh, this is horrible. Oh, we gotta throw them out right now because they're 17. If it was more realistic and more realistic in the stereotypical frat boy movie thing, they probably wouldn't have cared that they were 17, to be honest. Especially when they have party with 18-year-olds, and I'm sure there's alcohol involved as well. But you know what? This movie has no shortage of really dumb things happening throughout the movie, where it just, instead of making you laugh or making you think, oh, this is hilariously bad, for me, I was just like, this is too dumb to laugh at. Like, there's a point of stupidity where if you reach that low of stupidity, you realize, you know what, I can't even think this is funny dumb. This is just plain dumb. And there's moments throughout this movie that are like that. There's this point where the teenage daughter brings out a scary game to try to spook them and tell them a haunted story so that they go to bed early so that she can sneak out. And the board game she brings down is not a Ouija board or anything you'd actually think would be in the movie, but it's some game board called Live or Die. Like, what's the point of this thing? Obviously, she never opens it up, so we don't know if it's a board game or what it is. All we see is this huge, comically huge card fall out of it saying die. Like, what is this thing? She also had this device that would shut on and off all the lights in the entire house. And not only that, it would make that clashy, like really stereotypical Clash of Lightning type horror movie scares. Like, that's how the lights would act. They would flicker on and off as if there was lightning, and they also seem to make a sound like that. Like, who would have this device and how would you hook that up? This might be getting a little bit into spoiler territory, but the ending of the movie, and I won't spoil what the prank is or whatnot, but there's this one point where Madea and friends, they get back at the frat boys and prank them hard, and it's so ridiculous. Clearly the frat boys were dumb to begin with, and I kind of agree that they would fall for this, but at the same time they still felt even stupider for falling for this prank. It's like a prank that anyone with any logical sense would understand it's a prank. Any shred of logic and reasoning, and they would realize, hey, something's off. Maybe we're being pranked. But you know what the dumbest thing in this entire movie is? Well, here we go. The hacking. That's right. There's a hacker, a genius hacker in this movie, apparently. Apparently, he's so good at hacking that he can hack not only TVs, not only lights in a house, but he can hack a mirror and a faucet. He can hack a mirror in a way where if steam was on it, it would make an invisible, something would put writing on the mirror as the steam goes on. That's how he hacks the mirror. And how he hacks the faucet, he manages to find a way to hack it so it turns on and off. They hack a mirror and they hack a faucet. What? And there is a message in the film of respecting parents and dealing with terrible, obnoxious teenage daughters, or teenage kids for that matter. There's a lesson to be learned and whatnot, but we understand it as the movie's going on, to the point where when it actually has that message, when it actually preaches the message, it just becomes annoying, blatant, and just really drags the movie even more. Look, there were some funny moments, there were some hilariously bad funny moments, but there were so few far between that I was mostly annoyed with the film and they almost canceled each other out. So for Boo! A Madea Halloween, I'm still gonna give it 1 star. Maybe I'll go lower as the end of the year comes along and I'm trying to figure out where movies should place in my worst of and best of lists. So maybe it'll go down a little further. But for now, I'm just gonna give it 1 star. So did you see Boo! A Madea Halloween? What'd you think about it? Go ahead and comment below. If not, what is the worst horror parody movie you've ever seen? Any. That means scary movie. That means haunted house. That means any kind of knockoff versions of those films. Worst horror movie parody whatsoever. And if you like this video and you want to see more, please subscribe and check out my movie reviews of 2015 and 2016. As always, this is Bruce Gifford and this was Just My Opinion.